The use of terror as a Machiavellian instrument of power. Former French Minister of the Interior, Charles Pasqua, made a provocative statement when he said, "Terrorize the terrorists." Although this statement may seem brutal and inhumane at first glance, it deserves a thorough analysis from a Machiavellian perspective. Niccolò Machiavelli, in his work The Prince, discussed ruthless means that may be necessary to retain power. In this essay, we will explore Machiavellian philosophy through the lens of counterterrorism, examining how terror can be an effective instrument for maintaining control in a threatened society. Chapter 1: The Necessity of Terror. Machiavelli taught that the end justifies the means, and in the case of the fight against terrorism, the preservation of national security is the ultimate end. Terrorist acts threaten the stability of the state and the safety of its citizens. In this context, terror can be a powerful means to deter and counteract terrorists. Machiavelli's reasoning rests on the idea that the sovereign must be willing to employ ruthless measures to preserve order and security. Terror, in this context, is not just blind violence but a calculated strategy aimed at intimidating enemies of the state and maintaining the loyalty of citizens. Charles Pasqua may have understood that the threat of severe reprisals could deter potential terrorists. Chapter 2: Terror as Deterrence. Machiavelli also emphasized the importance of maintaining the authority of the sovereign. In the fight against terrorism, terror can serve as a means of deterrence, creating an atmosphere of fear that prevents individuals from joining terrorist groups or committing acts of terror. The fear of severe retaliation can act as a powerful psychological barrier. Terror can be used to strengthen the state's authority by demonstrating that the government is prepared to take extreme measures to protect its citizens. This message of determination can boost public confidence in the government and garner increased support for security policies. Chapter 3: Controlled Terror. From a Machiavellian perspective, it is crucial that terror is controlled and targeted. Blind and indiscriminate terror can lead to widespread public rejection and weaken the legitimacy of power. However, targeted terror against the true enemies of the state can be effective without triggering popular revolt. Charles Pasqua may have suggested that security forces should employ targeted terror tactics to reach terrorist groups while minimizing collateral damage. This approach can be seen as an example of the application of Machiavellian philosophy in the context of counterterrorism. Conclusion. Charles Pasqua's statement, though controversial, can be interpreted in light of Machiavelli's teachings on maintaining power. Terror, when used in a controlled and targeted manner, can be an effective instrument in the fight against terrorism by deterring individuals from joining terrorist groups and reinforcing the state's authority. However, it is important to note that Machiavellian philosophy raises profound ethical questions as it justifies ruthless acts to achieve political goals. The use of terror as an instrument of power must be used with caution and in respect of human rights. Charles Pasqua may have been right in mentioning the need to terrorize the terrorists, but it is up to society to debate the balance between security and individual freedom. The Machiavellian approach to countering terrorism, historical and contemporary examples. In the annals of political history, the Machiavellian approach to countering terrorism has found its place through the use of calculated measures that may seem harsh but are justified by the necessity to maintain order and protect the state and its citizens. This essay will delve into this Machiavellian perspective while drawing upon both historical and contemporary examples to highlight the efficacy of terror as a tool for counterterrorism. Chapter 1: Historical Examples. 1.1 The Reign of Terror in the French Revolution, 1793 to 1794. During the French Revolution, Maximilien Robespierre implemented a brutal reign of terror, targeting those perceived as enemies of the revolutionary government. This period of extreme violence, marked by public executions, aimed to intimidate potential counter-revolutionaries. 1.2 The Gestapo in Nazi Germany, 1933 to 1945. The Gestapo, the secret police of Nazi Germany, utilized terror as a means to suppress opposition. Citizens lived in constant fear of informants, arrests, and torture. This atmosphere of dread dissuaded dissent and bolstered Nazi control. Chapter 2, Contemporary Examples. 2.1, The Israeli Mossad and Counterterrorism. Israel's intelligence agency, the Mossad, has a Machiavellian reputation for its targeted operations against terrorists. The agency's calculated use of force and psychological warfare have prevented numerous attacks. Their actions deter potential terrorists. 2.2, The U.S. War on Terror after September 11. In response to the September 11, 2001 attacks, the United States initiated the War on Terror. This involved covert operations, drone strikes, and intelligence gathering, often in a manner that some consider ruthless. The objective is to instill fear in terrorist networks. Chapter 3, The Ethics of Machiavellian Counterterrorism. While these historical and contemporary examples illustrate the effectiveness of Machiavellian strategies in countering terrorism, they also raise profound ethical questions. The use of terror as a tool of power can lead to human rights abuses, diminish individual freedoms, and spark international outrage. The balancing act between security and liberty remains a crucial and contentious issue. Conclusion. The Machiavellian approach to counterterrorism, characterized by calculated and often ruthless measures, has been employed throughout history and into contemporary times. Historical examples such as the Reign of Terror and the Gestapo, as well as contemporary instances like Mossad operations and the U.S. War on Terror, demonstrate the potential efficacy of terror as a means of deterrence and control. However, the ethical implications of these methods, such as human rights violations and the erosion of civil liberties, continue to be subjects of debate and controversy. The balance between security and individual freedom remains a fundamental challenge in the pursuit of Machiavellian counterterrorism strategies.